President of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much. Kemi, thank you for that great introduction. The only problem with that introduction is in 2 minutes you gave my entire speech. Thank you. Let me begin, as Kemi said, by thanking the 100,000+ people in 3,500 locations all over America for coming out tonight. We think we're making history. We think that there has never been an organizing effort like this early in the campaign. So let me thank each and every participant for being part of the political revolution and for making history. I am often asked by the media. Media says, well, how come there is so much excitement in your campaign? Why is there so much enthusiasm? Why have so many people come out to your rallies? And we've had great rallies all across the country. Why have we received over 300,000 individual contributions? And you know what the average contribution was? Not $1 million, not $500,000, $35. And people are asking me, how does it happen that all of these support groups are popping up all across the country? We read about them in the papers. We don't organize them. People all over the country are coming together, and that is just extraordinarily exciting and gratifying. And the answer I give when people ask me why all of this is happening is pretty simple. And that is, as Kemi said, enough is enough. The American people in our great country believe that our government should belong to all of us and not, as is currently the case, a handful of billionaires. Enough is enough. The American people are saying loudly and clearly, we cannot continue to have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that there's something immoral when the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%, when almost all of the new income being created in America is going to the top 1 or 2%. The American people understand also that it is simply not right that major corporation after major corporation, many of whom are making billions in profits, pay zero, nothing, or very, very little in taxes because they stash their profits in the Cayman Islands. They take advantage of all of the tax haven loopholes that they have. The American people are saying enough is enough. We have got to reverse the decline of the middle class over the last 40 years. And people are asking, how does it happen that with all of the new technology out there, all of the increase in productivity that workers are producing, how does it happen that millions of people are working longer hours for lower wages? In my state of Vermont and all across this country, people are working 2 jobs, they're working 3 jobs, just to cobble together necessary income and health care to sustain their families. How does that happen? Why does it happen? Why are people working longer hours for lower wages? Enough is enough. We cannot continue to maintain a minimum wage in this country of $7.25 an hour. That is a starvation wage. And we need to move the minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour over the next few years. It is not a radical idea. It is not a radical idea to say that if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. That family should not have to be going to an emergency food shelf in order to get food to sustain the family. Enough is enough. Real unemployment in America is not 5.3%, it is 10.5%, and the real tragedy, one of the great tragedies that we are experiencing, which we do not talk about at all, is youth unemployment. Recent study came out, and this is what the study said, for kids between the age of 17 to 20 who have graduated high school, if they are white, their unemployment rate is 33%. If they are Hispanic, 36%. If they are African American, 51%. In other words, we are turning our backs on an entire generation of young people. And if anyone thinks it is a coincidence that we end up having more people in jail than any other country on earth, you would be mistaken. And it seems to me that instead of having 5.5 million young people throughout this country with no jobs, no schooling, that maybe it makes a lot more sense for us to be investing in jobs and education rather than jails and incarceration. Enough is enough. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Why is it that hundreds of thousands of bright and able and qualified young people are unable to go to college? And the answer is simple. Their families don't have a lot of money. Well, that is absurd. What we have got to do as a nation is make sure that higher education is available to all people, regardless of their income, who want to get a higher education. And that is why I've introduced legislation that does two primary things. Number one, it says that in America, every public college and university will be tuition free. And the significance of that is not only that it will save young people money and families, but more importantly, it will tell kids in the 4th grade and in the 6th grade that if their parents never went to college, my parents never went to college, if nobody in their neighborhood went to college, that they will be able to get a higher education if they do their schoolwork seriously. There will be no impediment because everybody will have that opportunity regardless of income. So this can revolutionize education in America, making sure that every low-income kid, every working-class kid who does his work or her work seriously in school will be able to get a higher education. And the second part of that legislation deals with another issue of huge consequence, and that is today we have millions of young people and people who are not so young who are struggling with outrageously high student debt. And they are carrying this debt for decades in some cases. In fact, I talked to a woman a while back. She is paying off her debt. She's paying off her daughter's debt. That's really not all that uncommon. All right, so what do we have to do? What we have to do is say that it's a little bit crazy that somebody who has a student debt is paying 8, 9, 10% of interest rates when they can refinance their home today for 2 or 3 or 4%. So we have got to allow people who have that student debt to refinance at significantly lower interest rates. Second part of that is the United States government should not be profiteering off of the high interest rates on student debt that working families have. So we got to end profiteering on the part of the government. We do those two things, we substantially lower student debt interest rates in this country. Enough is enough. All of us are tired, sick and tired of seeing institutional racism at work, of seeing women being pulled out of cars, thrown to the ground, handcuffed, as in the case of Sandra Bland, jailed and found dead 3 days later. And what was the crime that she committed? She forgot to signal that she was making a right turn. People should not die because they didn't put a signal on making a right turn. And we're seeing this all over this country. We need significant criminal justice reform. We need to deal with a whole lot of issues. But the bottom line is we cannot and should not lead the world in the number of people who are in jail. We should lead the world in having the best educated population in the world. Enough is enough in terms of the denigration which is now going on in terms of our political process. The Citizens United Supreme Court decision was one of the worst decisions in the history of our country. And what that decision said to the wealthiest people in America, today you own much of our economy, now you have the opportunity to buy the United States government, and that is what they are doing. So when you have a situation where one family, the Koch brothers, is spending more money, close to $1 billion in this election cycle, to elect candidates who make the rich richer and everybody else poorer, when you have a situation like that, that is not called democracy. That is called oligarchy. And we have got to do everything in our power to turn that around. So not only do we need to overturn Citizens United, but we also need to move to public funding of elections. I believe from the bottom of my heart in a vibrant democracy. That means, people have different points of view, and we respect people's different points of view. But if any of the people in this room, we have 30 or 40 people, many of them young people, and we have 100,000 people all over this country. If you want to run for office, I want you to be able to run for office without having to beg wealthy people for campaign contributions. That's not what democracy is about. There is another issue out there that is so enormous, and it touches all of us as adults and those of us who are parents, and that is the moral responsibility we have to leave this planet in a habitable way for our children and our grandchildren. The scientific community has spoken in an almost unanimous voice. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. Climate change is already causing devastating problems in America and around the world. And our job as Americans is to lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and into such sustainable energies as wind, solar, geothermal, and other sustainable energies. And when we do that, by the way, we can create a whole lot of jobs. And we can also create a whole lot of jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Now, the other issue that I want to touch on right now is that enough is enough in terms of how we deal with undocumented people in this country. And in my view, no ifs, buts, or maybes. We have 11 million undocumented people. People are living in the shadows. I just met a woman the other day in Louisiana, scared to death, young lady, that she or people in her family will be deported. I was in Immokalee, Florida, a number of years ago, talking and working with undocumented workers who are being exploited in the most ruthless way imaginable. Enough is enough. We need comprehensive immigration reform. We need a path toward citizenship for the undocumented people in this country. And when we talk about enough is enough, we should recognize that compared to many other countries, how we treat working families and the middle class is far, far behind where other countries are. We are the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. Affordable Care Act made some progress. We still have 35 million people who have no health insurance and more who are underinsured. And that is why I will fight, as President of the United States, for a Medicare for All single-payer program guaranteeing health care to all. And we also have to join the rest of the industrialized world in making sure that our people can enjoy family and medical leave. 3 months when you have a baby, you can take time off, get to know your baby, not be forced to go back to work. No, it happens all the time in this country. People should be guaranteed paid sick time, and people should be guaranteed paid vacation time, because there are jobs being offered in this country that provide zero vacation time. That's wrong. So those are just a few of the ideas that are out there. But here is the most important idea, and the most important point that I want to make. and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it all. The powers that be, that is corporate America, Wall Street, the insurance companies, the drug companies, the military-industrial complex, these guys are enormously powerful. And the only way that we can defeat them, the only way we can transform America, the only way we can have a government which begins to work for working people rather than the wealthiest people in this country, is by putting together an unprecedentedly strong grassroots movement and what I call a political revolution, where people become actively involved in the political process. We develop coalition politics. People start talking to each other and working with each other in a way that we have never seen before. Now, the bottom line here is that the other side will have unlimited, and I mean unlimited sums of money. They control the economy, they have huge power over the media, and obviously they have huge influence over the political process. And let's not minimize it. They are very, very, very powerful. The only way we win this thing is when people come together. So they got the money, they got the power, but we have the people. And that's what this political revolution is about. Tonight is a great first start. 100,000 people coming together in 3,500 locations around America. Our job now is to turn that energy, those numbers, into a political organization, to figure out how we knock on doors, how we make telephone calls, how we just get out there and get the word out to our neighbors that now is the time, not for old-fashioned establishment politics, but for a political revolution. Now is the time to transform America in the way that the vast majority of our people want. That is our task. This is not easy stuff. But I believe that at the end of the day, when people come together, when people are united, there is nothing, nothing, nothing that can stop us. So thank you all very much for being here tonight, and we look forward to working with you in the months and years to come. Thank you.